Hello all, welcome to another endgame study of the Solving Other Studies to Improve Chess Calculation series. This is a rarity because this composition was co-created by two world champions, by José Raúl Capablanca and Emanuel Lasker, which is a rarity. As far as I know, there are only two that were co-created by two chess champions, and they were both made by these two world ones. So let's go for now the end game study for our practice. As always, I suggest you watch the guide if you haven't, so you are better prepared. And if you are already prepared, then the main countdown of 10 minutes will start. And so let's go with it, and then I'll catch you up with the guided solution. And here we are for the solution. Let's go with the first move, which is the most natural one. We are lucky on this one. It is the knight takes the knight! Exclamation mark. This is the way to go for the win. Well, this is not a very complex study. We fastly see that we have a rook for a knight, so we had a slight advantage on material. But of course, the knights are yet well coordinated, and we need to deal with the situation where the enemy king is close to a stalemate position, so we need to be precise. This is a technical study, which is not a surprise coming from the two world champions, of course. So other options over here, like moving the knight to another side, it's just a blunder. We just take the rook. And of course, going with the rook to try to attack the knight. Well, the knight just exchanges for the white knight, and then after taking the pawn, well, over here we can see that we remain with a rook against a knight and a pawn, which is of course a draw. And the other option we need to consider, and probably another one, is to go with the king to c8. Double question mark, but okay, let's see why. It's black to play, so now we are going to go for a 1 minute countdown, pause if you need more, and find how black can play for a draw from here. And the correct move is to go for the pawn, and this gives us the draw from black perspective. We keep the knight defending the pawn. Now white knight is under attack, and so there is no more chances for white over here to go and win this one. The other option would be a big blunder, and the other option taking the knight, because now it's again white to play, but for a win. So again, I give you a 1 minute countdown and find what is the correct continuation for white to go and win this one. And you need to be careful over here, because if you take the knight, then the king just takes the pawn, and this makes it an easy draw for black from now on. And so the correct move over here is, before taking the knight, deliver this intermediate check, so forcing the king to the corner. Only then we take the knight, which forces now black to move the knight or the pawn. Anyway, it's going to be, of course, the pawn loss. Let's say the pawn advance, and so we take the pawn. And so now, of course, we are threatening the knight. We are going to be able to protect the pawn after if we want. And of course, with the king well placed, it's going to be now a win for white. But of course, you need to find this very interesting intermediate check. This is not hard, but as you can see, this is also technical one, so we need to be very precise until the end. But let's go to the main line. Let's go with the knight takes knight. Of course, now the knight takes back, and finally find the final move for white to play and go for a win. And let's go to finish this one. And what a better way to go on with a rook sacrifice on a8, double exclamation mark, forcing black to accept the rook. Of course, going to the side is not an option because we can simply sacrifice it again. And when the king takes, now we take the knight, the king moves. And as you already know, this is a winning pawn end game as soon as our king is in front of the pawn on the sixth rank and it's not a rook pawn, we are going to win this one. So this is the more interesting one, but let's see others. Let's see what happens if the king takes. Well, this is just simple technique again of the pawn end game. We get the opposition, but then the king is forced to move, and of course it's going to be lost, and we get our queen and a win. So without the king being able to take the rook, let's see what happens if the knight takes. Well, again, it's not hard to find from here. We just go with the king to c8, so forcing black to the only move possible, which is to move the knight, and then we can grab it. And again, we get the same idea that we saw. It's going to be an easy win from here. The king moves, and we get our king over the board. And let's go for a win. Well, this was more to show you a rarity from two world champions. Nevertheless, a technical in the game. Hope you have enjoyed. As always, I catch you up in future videos. And don't forget, bye bye and keep checking.